Next, we have Jerry Dankbar with City of Roseville.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jerry Dankbar. I'm the street superintendent for the City of Roseville. And I'm going to go over a little bit about pavement preservation, an update of what we're doing, what we've been doing for the last 20 years. 1999 was the first rubber cape seal. I didn't even work for the city then. I got a job a month later after they did the project. But I'm going to go over what's working for us, what isn't, and also the culture. How do you build preservation culture, and what we went through at Roseville and our experience of getting everybody on board. And some of the people who aren't on board aren't there anymore anyway, so we're good to go. So elements of building a pavement preservation culture. I'm going to go over defining the culture. Treatments used. What is in our toolbox? What's been working for us? I've got a bunch of slides on it, but I'll go through them very quickly, and if you guys have questions on it, that's fine. But I'm going to go over what's working in our toolbox and what we're adding to our toolbox as we go, because it's always changing. Technology changes. There's new products out there, and we're not afraid to try anything. We've kind of got that reputation in Roseville that if there's a new product, we'll try a test sample and we'll try it once and see how it holds up. How to ensure pavement preservation is a priority throughout the division and public works, actually citywide. And then how and when to pass on knowledge to future generations. We've got a lot of new people coming in, and how are we getting them into pavement preservation and thinking that way as we go. So what is culture? I just got this off the internet. We know everything's true on the internet, so hopefully this is true. We'll see how it goes. Organizational culture includes the organization's expectations, experience, philosophy, and values that guide decision-making and member behavior. Culture is based on shared attitudes, beliefs, customs, and written and unwritten rules that have been developed over time. Well, we need to simplify this. Simply stated, our pavement preservation culture is to maintain existing streets by using the most economical and advanced resurfacing treatments to avoid deterioration. Basically, we seal the good roads first. And that's what our employees know, that's what engineering knows, and I'll get into that, and I'll get into how we spread the word and keep passing that on. So who makes up the culture? All the way from my temporary street maintenance workers we hire every summer to full-time maintenance workers, admin staff, supervisors, myself, all engineering staff, inspection staff, public works director, city manager, city council, and of course the residents. And we do advertise to the residents as well because we want their buy-in. So when we ask for more money, they understand what we're doing, they understand our program, and we do that by ways, any social media we can, the internet, any way we can get it done. So when you get the city manager and city council, it's a little bit tougher to get them on board, but once they start seeing the benefits and the good comments from the residents, then they get on board. I have a new director now, but my past director became city manager. So he was pavement preservation. He loved it. He got in city manager. Kind of easy to get the council on board because he did it all the time. He's since retired. We have a new city manager, and he's a parks person. He came from the park side. It's a challenge. Right now, parks is a very reactive, at least in City of Roseville, they're very reactive. If somebody calls up, if anybody in here called up, had a problem, they're going to get out the right away and fix it. And they're not going to have their full asset management plan in place. If they do, they're going to throw it away and satisfy one person. I'm dealing with that right now, so I'll get into that a little bit later. But it's an opportunity to train somebody is what it comes down to. I'm not bitching, not yet. So now let's get into what's working for the rest in the toolbox. How to determine the type of surface treatment. You guys have seen this before. We have arterial streets, collector streets, residentials. Our arterials and collectors are our top priority. We've set a council goal years ago of our PQI of 72. A little bit high, but we're trying to keep that. And then residentials, any rural streets we got 2 of them. And then the alleys, PQI 65. Less traveled roads, PQI is a little bit lower. Our current PQI level is 73 on the arterials and collectors, and then 64 everywhere else. We're doing pretty good with the funding we have. We spend about $6 to $8 million a year right now, and that's with the new gas tax that went into effect a couple years ago. We need, according to our pavement management system, we need about 11 to 12 million. So we're still short. We're doing the best we can with what we've got. We do seal the best roads, the good roads first, and keep them that way. We get a lot of complaints on that, but we try to keep them at bay and explain the program to everybody. It seems to be working. How to determine type of surface treatment, traffic counts, traffic roads, weight of vehicles, traffic routes, if they're bus routes, available budget. What can you do? What process can you do, and what can you afford? ADA upgrades, that's got to be part of your package because, as you've well known, we have to make sure the ADA upgrades are done, and that's taken a lot of money away from our resurfacing budget right now. And then drainage upgrades. We take care of all the drainage, so anything less than an 8-inch lateral pipe gets upgraded to a 12-inch. The main lines, if there's any problems, we take care of that. And then, of course, all the DIs, the drain lets get upgraded at the same time. Continuing on, how to determine the type of surface treatment, the age of the street, pavement management system, what's the recommendation, physical condition of the street. Just because you're getting the pavement management system says to do it doesn't mean you can't go out there and look at it. Like John was saying earlier, they do their field trip and they go and look at it. We do that all the time. You know, our city is small enough where we're about 34 square miles, we're 456 centerline miles and about 1,100 lane miles. We can travel the city in a few days and get around, know what we've got. But even though the pavement management system tells us to do it, we have to go out and take a look at it because it's not always correct. It's a bunch of numbers in there spitting it out the best way we can, and we update it as we resurface, but you have to take a look at it. Specification of the street, asphalt thickness, subgrade, et cetera. Was it built to the design? Is it strong enough to handle that thin treatment you may put on there, resurfacing trim? Maybe you need to do something more. So make sure you look at that as well. If we have any doubts, I'm sure if you guys do the same thing, we core the street before we do anything more if we have any doubts on it. Or we do deflection testing. If that comes up a little bit low, we'll make sure we core it and find out what's underneath. And then cost effectiveness of the preservation treatment you're putting on. So using the right treatment at the right time, use your pavement management system with the age of streets, help determine the streets, what you're gonna do. And a typical rule of thumb between 80 and 100 is a slurry seal or a microsurface, 50 to 79 on PQI level, chip seal, cape seal overlays are standards, and then 0 to 49 gets reconstructed. We have had some streets that are in the 40s, 45s we've done. It's a low volume street, and I've just come in there, done a little bit of R&R, a bunch of patching, put a rubber cape on it, we bought 7 years. You know, we can't go around to reconstruction, but we can put a rubber cape on it or some other application just to buy us enough time where we can get enough money to reconstruct the road. So now I'll talk what's in our toolbox. We have many tools to choose from. Slurry seal, type 1. Typically, we're getting 5 to 10 years out of this. And we use this on our Class 1 bike trails and parking lots. We're doing all our Parks Department. We do their parking lots and some of the city-owned parking lots, the ones at the Corp Yard. And the type 1's working really well. We don't use a regular parking lot slurry seal. We just use a type 1. It's holding up really well. And actually, on one part of it, we messed up on the striping and had to come back and put a thin overcoat or a parking lot slurry right on top of that type 1. And now we have a 2-layer system, and that's holding up really well. So we're doing that to a lot of our parking lots as well. That way that type 1 doesn't get the power steering burn marks from the cars, and it doesn't wash away some of the sand and the rock. The slurry seal type 2, 5 to 10 years, we use this a lot. This and a microsurface we'll get into. 5 to 10 years on average is what we're getting out of that. We're trying to stay on a 7 to 10 year plan. Like the last presenter was, you guys are on a 7-year plan. That's awesome. You guys get it done every 7 years. We say that, but we're more like on the 10 to 15 year plan right now just because of funding. So but we're doing our best. Chip seal, cape seal, we're getting 10 to 15 years out of those. Well, I've got some pictures in here of a cape seal that's 14 years old, doing really well. It's the rubber cape seal. And that's kind of our go-to for our residential streets. We use a lot of rubber cape. Microsurface, we're getting 7 to 10 years of that. It's mainly on our arterial streets, but we will put that on residentials as well. Double chip seal, we got a few pictures of that. We've tried that in a residential, and it's worked pretty good. It's holding up really well. Puts a lot more oil in the ground, a lot more rock, and it seems to be doing good. And I've got some more pictures of that coming up. Bonded wearing course we've used. We're getting 8 to 12 years out of that. We've had a few streets that are just rough, aged pavement, and just needed to get smoothed out. So we put a bonded wearing course on it, and it did the trick. And right now there's some that are 9 and 10 years old, and it's performing very well. HMA hot mix, just standard overlay. One thing we don't do is we haven't been doing an overlay in residential since 2004. It's not real cost effective. We don't need to do an overlay. We can usually do some other type of treatment, maybe do a little bit more R&R and put a rubber cape on it or something else, or a 3-layer system, but it's not cost effective for us to put an overlay. Our residents want an overlay. Once they see one somewhere else, they want it in their neighborhood, but we can't always do it. Rubberized hot mix overlay, this is our standard for all of our arterials. We put 2-inch rubber on all the arterials when we resurface them. And then, of course, reconstruct, which includes, we've done FTR, cold foam in place. I say 20 to 30 years on that. The base is really holding up, but I've done surface treatments on top of this one since 2004. And I've got a picture of that. And then the new one we just tried was roller compacted concrete. We just got finished with that project. It's holding up really well. But that was a total reconstruct on a major truck route that had 3 inches of AC on it. Should have had at least 8 to 10 inches. And we took it out 12 inches and put 12 inches of concrete in with roller compacted concrete, and it turned out very well. So now I'm going to get a few slides on what we've used this on. This is the type 1. Slurry seal type 1 on the bike trail, 1/8-inch black rock aggregate. This one's 7 years old, still looking good. It's nice to see the edges are sprayed and people are keeping the weeds down and maintaining the trail. Parks Department does that for us, and they're doing a fantastic job. We do the striping and we do the pavement on all the bike trails. Another bike trails is 4 years after treatment. This is a type 1, like I was telling before. Type 2 with black rock, typical go down. You can see a little bit of crack seal, but the road's in pretty decent shape. And I'm not sure what neighborhood this was or the age of the street on this one, but most of our streets are in good shape before we put the type 2 on. Another one, type 2 completed. and we use black rock again. We did have a problem with a lot of shedding. We had a couple projects go to where maybe the mix design wasn't right, maybe it didn't get rolled correctly, we're not sure, but we had some shedding of the rock come off. And then the sweeping we had in the contract, the sweepers were picking it up. But we were noticing after 2 to 6 months, still getting a little bit of excessive rock coming off. To deal with the complaints we got quite a few complaints on it, and we didn't want to jeopardize our whole program. And if our residents go to city council, and city council may take a chance and shut us down and may want us to do something else, we changed the spec, and now we added a fog seal to every slurry that we do. So we just cap it with a fog. It seems to be holding most of the rock in place, so now we get very little shedding in the residential streets. So a little bit of insurance for a very low cost. Didn't cost much to do that. This is slurry seal type 2. This is rubber modified. This is a REAS product. We don't use this anymore, but we tried it for a couple years. It worked pretty good on the first one. We had a few failures on it, so we tried it again on a smaller area, and almost a complete failure. We were picking up rock for the next year. What it is the REAS has crumb rubber added into it in place of some of the rock. It doesn't bind real well. It didn't hold real well. We think it went down well with the contractor, but the product just didn't hold. So we had a whole subdivision come apart. The contractor stood behind it, and they came back and redid the whole subdivision with a microsurface 2 years later. But it took us a year and a half of constant sweeping with city sweepers to pick it up, and we picked up probably 50% of the rock that's stripped off. Rubber cape seal, like I said, this is more of our residential one. Polymodified rubber, 3/8 or half-inch aggregate. We use half-inch now, and then go to the top with a microsurface type 2 or a type 2 slurry. Another rubber cape. This job's about 2 years old, but that's what it should look like. Holds up really well for us. Rubber cape seal, this is the one I want to show you. This is 14 years after treatment. It survived 2 floods. If you look down to the back of the slide, very end, there's a creek down there. And this will flood. It won't flood any homes, but it comes up on the street. And we had the product down for just a couple of years, and it flooded, and then it flooded like 5 years after that. So this product is doing very well, and it's holding up. We've got a little bit of cracking going on here around the manholes, but this is going to be a candidate for a slurry next time. We'll probably do some crack seal. The rubber still seems to be holding up under here, but the slurry is starting to wear off. So we'll put another slurry on it, a microsurface, and be good to go. But that one's very impressive. It's holding up really well. The whole subdivision is. This one's a cape seal over fabric. This is a parking lot we had to do. Parking lot's not there anymore, but we needed to buy some time. The parking lot, this is the parking lot. Oh, I can see it down here, good. Actually, this parking lot was cracked. It was down to, I don't know, chunks like this everywhere. So we did some small patching on it, leveled it out, and came back and put a cape seal over fabric on this, and it held up very well. The parking lot was just ripped out probably 3-4 years ago, and a parking structure was put in, but it sure bought us a lot of time for a minimal amount of cost. We had estimates, and a couple of engineers wanted to put an overlay on it, and just buy some time with an overlay, but we did this for pennies on the dollar, and it lasted very well. So we would definitely use that again. This is a good one. Like I said, we only have a few rural roads, and we were out here patching these all the time. We acquired it from the county when we annexed more property out to the west. I've shown this slide before at other presentations, but it's just we were out there all the time patching potholes. So we went out there, did a little bit of patching, fixed the edges. We didn't even do the roadside ditches because it floods all the time. There's nothing we can do. There's rice fields out here. It's farmland. So we just came in here and patched what we could and then put rubber chip on it, and that's it. That road still holds up. So now our staff is not spending all winters out there fixing potholes for 3 or 4 residents that live out there, the farmers that live out there, and they sure get vocal. There's only 4 of them out there, but they sure get vocal, and they want us to maintain their roads. So ever since we got it from the county. But this took care of it. Double chip seal. We tried this in a couple of subdivisions, working really well. It adds a lot more rock and oil to the road, and it's doing very well. I was a little concerned about the smoothness of it, but it turned out to work out really well, and you can see the cracks we have, and it covers them up. And to this day, we've got barely cracking come through years later. Double chip seal again, before and after. You can see we got a little bit of cracking here that we left alone. We did some of the cracks, did a little bit of crack sealing on some of the major ones, and then we just left some of the other alligator crack, or started to get the alligator cracking, and then you look at the after shot, and it's doing fine. It does really well. We haven't used this project or process in probably 10 years. What about this one? This one looks like it's bleeding. It's actually flushing really bad. It does bleed. We get 100-degree weather. We get 110 for a week at a time, and we've had to come out here on this road, and this is a double chip as well. Done at the same time the other one was done, but had a lot of oil and some of the rocks stripped off. So now we're getting the flushing going on and a little bit of the bleeding. So we're going to come back to this one, hopefully in the next couple of years. We'll take care of the flushing here. We'll grind all this out, and it's just starting to shove a little bit. We'll grind it out, replace it, and then we'll come back and I'll put a microsurface on top. We'll encapsulate it with a microsurface and we'll be fine. And it'll work out really well. During this project, when they did the courts, we had 22 courts that were done on the same project. And what happened when they came through is they overlapped. When the spreader truck put the oil down, they overlapped it, and they didn't hand work it to spread out the oil. So we got double application oil in the middle of the court. Well, what happens? Garbage trucks go over it, all the traffic goes over it, it started bleeding really bad. So the contractor, under warranty, 1-year warranty, came back and put a microsurface over all of them, all 22 courts, and now it's doing fine. Microsurface type 2, sounds like a lot of people have been using that. Microsurface type 2, we use this on this is what we're trying to get to on all of our arterial streets that don't have to be reconstructed or overlaid. We'd like to just come back and do a microsurface every 7 years, and that's our goal, is the funding, is to get back and just keep doing this. Unless a better product comes out, we're gonna stick with this for now. So that's 3 years after treatment on the one, 1 year after treatment on this one. It holds up really well for us. There's another one in the toolbox, is remove and replace. HMA, we add fiber to it. This one we added bonding fiber, 2.5 pounds. Our own staff, with our grinder, we took this out, put it back, added the bonding fiber. This is a bus stop at the Amtrak station. It's the train station and bus stop. It was tore up. It was shoving, it was rutting, falling apart, just because of the heavy use. So anytime we have bus stops or heavy use, we always add the bonding fiber to it, and we do it in small areas at a time. And we're getting really good luck with it. This one has been slurried since then, so it's still holding up really well. Bonded wearing course. This is a road that was just aged and dried out. Just needed a little bit of help, needed a lift. It was a little rough, so we put a bonded wearing course on it. We just did crack sealing that we needed to. This is a mile stretch of road, 5-lane, and worked out really well. We probably could have used an overlay, a little bit thicker structural section on that one, but it bought us a lot of time, and now we're looking at doing the resurfacing again. But the bonded wearing course on that worked out really well. Another bonded wearing course on Washington Boulevard. This one's 9 years after treatment. It's holding up great. This is another one, another section of road that was just deteriorated over the years. So it has, the structural adequacy was there, it was just dried out and very old. So we did a lot of crack seal, a couple of mill and fill sections, take care of the bad areas, and it worked out great. So standard overlays, we're still doing that, like I said, on the arterials and the other streets that need it, just not so much the residentials. And then we are also doing HMA with fabric. We're getting good luck with that, and I've got the next slide for that one. We did this one on a side-by-side, and this is North Kirby, I think so, Bill? Yeah, I'm looking at Bill. North Kirby Way. We've got Petromet on this side, and we've got TruePave, which is a fiberglass mat on this side. They're both holding up very well. They're 15 years old. As you can tell, we haven't done anything to the streets. They're getting oxidized and dry. You can see a little bit of cracking. I don't know if you guys can see it right here in the middle. But other than that, that's all we're getting. We need to come in and crack seal it and put a micro on it, or maybe a slurry, type 2 slurry. But it's a very wide street in a residential area. It's a collector street. Gets a lot of traffic from the school and the buses, and the fabric seems to be holding up really well. This street was cracked from gutter to gutter. We just did a little bit of R&R, did the leveling course to take out the low spots, and ended up with this. 2-inch rubber overlay with fabric over concrete. This is an old highway we had built in 1939. We ground off somebody had put 2 inches of asphalt on it years ago before I got to the city. So we ground off all the asphalt, put a 3-inch leveling course on it, the standard 3/4-inch HMA, put the fabric down again, fiberglass mat, and then put 2 inches of rubber on top of that. This is a truck route. This is a garbage truck route, bus route. Gets a lot of traffic, and it's holding up very well. Rubber overlay again, standard on all of our arterials. This is rubber overlay 10 years. This is going to be microsurface next year, so it'll be 11 years old. I just wanted to show that a little bit of crack sealing we've put on that. It's prepped and ready to go. It'll make it through this winter, and next spring this will be covered up again. 2-inch overlay, one of the same streets, but this one is another one that's put down at the same time. Got a little bit of cracking in here, but we'll crack seal all that, and it'll take a microsurface just fine. The good thing about these streets is we've already done the ADA and the drainage upgrades from years ago, so there's no other added cost on those. We can just go and put the micro on it. That's the same one. This I had duplicate sides. We put a micro. This is that bus stop again where we put micro. Cold foam, full depth reclamation project we did in 04. Actually, it spread to 04. We dug out the street, or the contractor did, and this is early October we did it. And we ended up getting a little bit of rain. Not all the rain will pass. We ended up getting 4 inches of rain in 1 month. We had to shut the project down for the year, and we continued on. We got half the project done and continued the next spring. The surface was put down so hard on that FDR when they got it done that we actually had potholes during the winter. That's how hard it was. It didn't fall apart at all. We kept the 25-mile-an-hour signs up. People had to drive through it the whole time, but it worked. This is 10 years after the treatment with a 2-inch rubber on top of it, holding up very well, no issues at all. And then we came back and already put a microsurface back just a few years ago. This is 3 years after treatment. So this was a street that was put in and it was underbuilt. We only had 3 inches of AC at the thickest section. It should have had 8 to 10 inches on this road. Where was the inspector? That's all I can say was where was the inspector? They missed it on that one. So, but this project they're doing the FDR saved us $400,000, and we got it done in record time. So it saved us a lot of time. So future resurfacing, what's in our box in the future? What are we going to be doing? RCC, roller compacted concrete for reconstruction. We'll keep doing that. Recycled asphalt products. We're going to start doing, hopefully, do our chip seals and use our wrap. We have a lot of wrap material, and we're going to start putting that back into our chip seals and our slurry seals. That's our goal, to save the cost on rock. And we have our own grinder and paver, so when we take out our asphalt, we stockpile it, and we're going to start reusing it. Cold in place recycling, CIR, overlay with fiber. Haven't done that yet, and then slurry seals with fiber. We've done a test section with that with Valley at one time, and we're ready to do another one when the street calls for it. Summary: age of street, pavement management recommendation, the spec of the street, was it built right? Do you have to do core samples? Cost effectiveness, the street types, traffic counts. What's the traffic load on yours? Does it need to be? Do you need that 2-inch overlay? Does the traffic warrant that, or is it light traffic? You can do a thin resurfacing treatment. Traffic load, and then ADA upgrades as part of the overall budget. So preserve and maintain existing streets by using most economical advanced resurfacing treatments to avoid this. This is what we show to our residents all the time. Seal the good roads first. So planning for the future and preserving our culture. I've talked about what's in our toolbox. Now let's get right back to the culture. Training. Intro to culture is the first day with a new employee orientation. So when I get new staff in and I do the orientation for them, which I do all my own staff, 3 to 4 hour orientation, we start talking about asset maintenance. And we get into pavement maintenance, not only our signs and markings, but our drainage, and how can we stay ahead of the curve and preserve our pavement. So we get into a little bit of the culture right in the beginning. What are their training? Pavement preservation seminars like these. We send maintenance staff and engineering to it. Online courses. There's many of online courses out there now that we're using. And in-house training with lessons learned. We'll have meetings after our projects in the wintertime. We haven't been doing it the last couple of years. We got to get back into it. What are lessons learned? What worked well? What didn't work well? Do we need to change our specs? That type of thing, just to keep everybody thinking ahead on preservation and being being ahead of the curve before anything gets too bad. Include people at project meeting. Maintenance and engineering need to be work as one. We're having a small problem with that right now. We've got a lot of new engineers in our public works, and the way it works is I'm in street maintenance and we develop all the lists for all of our projects, for our resurfacing projects. We run the pavement management system. I send that list over to engineering and they put the project out on the street. We have a lot of new engineers in there now, and they're trying to get these projects out. We have a great set of specs that we've developed over 18 years. We've tweaked them. We've changed them a little bit. We've listened to contractors, what works best, what doesn't. And right now, we have a disconnect. I was just talking to my boss about it, engineering manager. So we got to work on communication. We're not getting invited to meetings. Decisions are being made without us. Streets are being promised to the public that we can do when we really can't. So there's things like that we have to work on. We've had a great running 18, 19 years, but now we've got to work on that. Talk about pavement preservation and benefits consistently, all the time. Make sure maintenance staff knows why they are preparing a road for resurfacing. We do our best to let our guys know that, hey, we're going to do a rubber cape seal on this, so you need to prep it this way, this, and this. Or if it's going to be a slurry, you need to do a little more to it, and a little more crack seal, because the slurry doesn't fill in the cracks like a rubber cape seal does. So depends on what they're doing. And the reason for that is they need to know what's going on and what we're prepping for so they do it the right way. And the other reason is the public is always out there asking them. And I want them to have an informed answer for them. Not that they have to tell them everything that we're doing, but I'd hate to have an employee saying, yeah, we're doing a rubber cape, but I think a 2-inch overlay is what this road needs. And that's the last thing we want to go to a resident. And then they're calling me saying, well, your staff thinks we need a 2-inch overlay. They need to know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and the outcome of what it's going to be and the cost savings. So they can pass, even if they pass on a little bit of that to the customer, when they call me or their direct supervisor, they've already planted the seed and we can carry on with it. Residents are the partners in the process. We make sure the residents know. We have our website updated all the time, and I've got a picture of that coming up. What can go wrong? Lessons learned. It is all about safety. I wanted to throw that one in there, but we also learned lessons learned, what worked well in the past, what didn't. And that's everything from how we prep the road to how the contract get out. Is there any warranty issues with the contractor? How the relationship work with the contractor? That type of thing. We'll do a lessons learned on the whole process and how much money we've saved and doing the right thing. So this is our website, and we have this is a copy of our page. I don't know if you guys can see that real well. It's a paving section. It shows what we do and why we do it and how we do it. This is a map of the future resurfacing. Different color is a different year, so that's a 2 years planned out. That map needs to be updated because we had to cut back a little bit. But we do public education. Before we resurface the neighborhood, we hold neighborhood meetings, and I'll give a quick presentation with the engineering staff. We'll let them know what they can expect. If it's a rubber cape or a slurry, there's going to be rock flying around, there's going to be construction. It takes this long to get it done, that type of thing. So we have a full process to let everybody know how things are going to work. This is on our website, and it's a 90 seconds. It's Roseville in 90. It's a 90-second video for the customers.
This is Roseville in 90. Today's topic, maintaining our roads. Roseville has 438 miles of roadways to maintain, worth more than $1 billion. It is an extremely valuable city resource. The most cost-effective way to keep our roads in the best possible condition may not be what you think. Our proactive approach to road maintenance means prioritizing preventative maintenance of streets in good condition over repairing roads in worse condition. By keeping roads in good shape through preventative surface treatments, we are able to stave off expensive repairs on these roads indefinitely, saving millions of dollars. The cost of preventative maintenance is 1/10 the cost of completely resurfacing a road. We still repair the more damaged roadways as quickly as we can with the available funds. In the meantime, those roads can still be used safely without increasing the cost of repair. When the roads in your neighborhood are resurfaced, you will be notified at least 2 weeks before the work is scheduled. As the surface treatment hardens, loose gravel will shed away from the roadway. This is normal and will decrease over time. Road crews sweep along the newly paved roads to pick up this loose gravel. Over time, we will reach the point where all our roads will be on the less costly, more frequent preventative maintenance schedule. But until then, prioritizing preventative maintenance over expensive repairs keeps the community safe while keeping the balance between cost and benefits in check.
That's how we keep everybody informed and try to keep people up to date. So we explain it over the phone, but a video's one of the only ways to go. It sure helps out. Once we did that, it helps a lot of people. It calms down the questions and people understand why we're doing what we're doing, and that's the biggest thing. So I went through this kind of fast because I had about 50 slides. So hopefully you guys could hear me and catch on. Any questions at all that you have?
I see you tried roller compacted concrete.
Right.
On the finished product, did you get the ride quality you want, and what's the speed limit that's on that road?
The speed limit's 45 to 50. Actually, that one's 50. We did not get the ride quality, but we had it in the spec to do a grind, and we did a final grind on a leveling grind, and it worked out. It's smooth as glass, and that project turned out very well. It was one of our. I thought I had pictures in here. I must have saved it on a different version, but I had pictures of it in this. The road needed to be reconstructed, and then they came in. It only took one summer to get this one large road done, and we did a collector street and an arterial street. The goal was to show the developers how easy it goes down, how cost effective it is, because we want our developers that are building out into the county and incorporating in the city. We want it to be used on our residential streets. That's our goal. So we had the developers out there looking at it. We were trying to showcase as much as we want. So we put it in our standards now. So the developers building new subdivisions, they can either put asphalt in or concrete. And we're proving that concrete can go in faster and a little bit cheaper just because the labor is involved to put in a typical road. But it turned out very well. We had to do a diamond grind on it and level it out, but it turned out great. And we did not use thermoplastic on that. We used 3M tape because it seems to hold up better on the concrete, but we get nothing but compliments on it. So.
Was going to comment on the roller compacted concrete
Yeah.
as well. I drove over all of the sections on the way to the seminar at your city
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago, and I was impressed with the smoothness. But what was particularly impressive is the night before I had attended an ASCE meeting, and they showed how cost effective it was.
Right.
And I couldn't believe it.
When you're doing a full reconstruct, it's very cost effective. When you got to tear everything out, you got to hit the right project to be cost effective. But in our case, it did. And ours, we spent $6 million to do these 3-4 sections of road, a residential, a collector street, and then the major arterial. And that was our trial. That was our trial run. We scraped together $6 million to do it, trying to get the developers on board. Developers haven't jumped on board yet. They love black. They think that people that buy homes want to have a black street, and I don't know what it is, but we're hoping it catches on. Because before we did this, me and my boss, we went to Arkansas, we went to Texas and saw their roads to see how they're holding up. And we saw how good it's been holding up, and works really well.
Thank you,
That's it.
Jerry.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.